do business with people they like. And so building those relationships and building a community feel where people feel, hey, I need some help.
Nothing beats getting in the room together and just throwing stuff up on a whiteboard and seeing what sticks and what slowly slides off as you investigate it further.
It's one thing to be able to say, hey, we know what the issues are. It's something entirely different to be able to say, and here's what the really smart CEOs are doing about it.
We're lucky enough this week to have Lauren Scholtz with us. Lauren is a learning and development specialist. That's probably the best way of describing her. As well as working with Humanforce, she describes herself as the Robin Hood of skills, really specializing in when she can work with kind of first-time learning and development professionals. People are setting up departments, maybe in small businesses, and just how they do that on their own and get all that experience. Lauren's there to support that. She's not only just done that, she's also got a podcast called Starting Up L&D, which kind of makes sense. And she's been a project manager, recruiter, travel agent, and cartoon character in her past. Let's hear what Lauren has to say. Hi, Lauren. It's good to see you again. I hope you're well.
I am. Thank you for asking. I hope you are as well.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Lauren, just kind of as a reminder for anybody who's not seen anything you've done before, tell us a little bit about Lauren.
Well, it's hard to keep up sometimes, but some main things to know. So starting up L&D, run that space, mostly a podcast at the moment. It's all about those people that get that really exciting but also terrifying job of starting up the learning and development function in organizations that have never had it before. Then I guess my day job is that I'm a learning and development manager at an organization called Humanforce, where I'm doing a lot of the things that I talk about, which is setting up the L&D function for the first time in an organization that's never had it before. Prior to that, I was doing very much the same thing at a different tech organization. So I've learned a few things from the first time around and hopefully trying to share those with people. And then before that, take your pick, travel agent, cartoon character, worked in recruitment for a while. The list goes on, but it's always about getting people to where they need to be with the stuff that's in my head.
How did you get people where they need to be as a cartoon character? I have to know that one.
Well, people travel a very long way to have special experiences. It's something that's very meaningful to them. And there's a lot of prep work involved in making that happen. And, you wait in line, you get excited, and that moment arrives. And it's something that's going to stick with you for the rest of your life. Whether it's like a little kid that, they're meeting their hero for the first time, like that photo is going to be on the wall for the rest of their life. So, even if it's just for 30 seconds, being able to give someone that experience that really has the impact, it just used to make me smile every time.
So what cartoon characters have you been? We're going slightly off piste already, and we're like a minute in.
Look, I have been told I'm very distracting. Unfortunately, I can't tell you. It would ruin the magic, Graham.
Oh.
I know, but let's just say very well beloved and got to make a lot of dreams come true.
Oh, excellent. I've just been told I could be Shrek, but that's about it.
Oh, that's like, well,
I've got the accent anyway. So what do you do when you're not working? What do you do when you're not kind of leading people into that area?
Well, definitely try to get a bit of exercise in there. Doing a lot of renovations around the house at the moment. Got a young family also, so we just came back from a holiday overseas, actually 3 weeks road tripping around California and Florida.
Nice.
It was amazing.
Nice. Right, let's get back on it. Talk to us about the setting up L&D for the first time, whether it's as a professional kind of job role or just a company getting into the size that they need to be doing that.
Yeah, well, it started from a place where I was realizing that I was doing something for the second time, which, like I've just given you my resume, it's very rare that I do something more than once. Right. So, I thought there has to be something in that. Yeah. And being able to learn from the things that did and didn't work last time, things like building relationships or having a bit more of a plan rather than just throwing things at the wall and see what sticks.
Yep.
So those things are really helping me. And like I said, I like helping people get to where they need to go. So why should it just live in my brain? Why can't I put that out there and, let other people learn from my mistakes as well? And look, I don't know everything yet either. So, quite a few episodes that I've done so far is actually me going and finding people that are more knowledgeable, smarter than I am, more experienced, and actually asking them some questions to solve some problems I'm working through.
It's a really important part of kind of what we do, isn't it? Is finding that humility, knowing that there are other people out there that've got ideas, views, opinions, or just some intellect that's different from ours.
Absolutely.
How do you find them? What do you look for?
How do I look? Well, definitely people that are easy to talk to.
Yeah.
And I love making friends, so that makes it pretty easy. And then, I don't know, just so far I've been really fortunate, in terms of coming across somebody through work or through networking, and then we just really hit it off. And I see that they're in a space that, I'm interested in but don't know a heap about. Like one of the people, it was a connection through work, and he's actually the CEO and the founder of a learning management solution. And the whole organization was built off trying to make it easier for your subject matter experts to share their knowledge and expertise so you can capture it as an organization instead of it just going out the door when people leave. So that's something that I'm dealing with at the moment as well. It's kind of the thing that happens when you're in a startup environment. You have those few people that have been there forever and they know everything and it's not written down. So if they're not available, everything tends to be a bit difficult. So yeah, it was great to have a chat through with him to talk about, like take it slow and don't try and get it perfect, just get started and find a tool and evolve as you go. I would have definitely gone at it trying to get everything perfect first time around. I'm a perfectionist. It's just how I roll. And so that bit of knowledge and that bit of expertise has really helped me a lot.
How does a business know that they need this? How does a business know kind of that they're at that point that something happens? Now, in my experience of it, it tends to be something's gone wrong, so they want to fix it. Are there any other, there's signs before something might go wrong?
Yeah, look, I wish that it was, you've done X number of kilometers as a business and this little light comes on your dashboard saying, hey, it's time for L&D now. That's your next stop on this journey.
Yeah.
There are a few organizations that will do that. They typically tend to have somebody in that decision-making space that is very forward-thinking, or they've come from a great experience where they understand the power of learning and development as a performance tool, as a success tool. Honestly, most of the time, it's because something's not working.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely something that I've started to be aware of, is that most of the times, like my first time around, the reason that the function came into being was two reasons. First of all, product knowledge. The scale that the organization was growing at, there were new people training new people on the product. And, you photocopy tends to get a bit blurry after a while. So it's really just not a great idea. And then the other side of scaling as well is that when you're a business that is, really trying to rapidly scale your market presence, you need salespeople. And those people need the knowledge to be able to do what they need to do, but they also need to be potentially trained in how it's done in your business so that your customers get that consistent experience. They know what's going on. No one has to reinvent the wheel either. So usually, one or two things in terms of that, sales particularly, because that directly ties to, finance and numbers.
Yeah.
Definitely a good sign.
Do you think if you had a blank canvas, there would be actually a natural place to start with this for a smaller business?
Well, I think it tends to start itself. I read this really great statistic to say something like 40% of training material in most organizations is not created by the learning and development department.
Okay.
I say it all the time. You can either see that as really terrifying and as a threat, or you can see it as this massive relief because I'm just one person.
Yeah.
If I have to write every piece of content that's out there, I'm not going to have the time, let alone the knowledge to do it. So in most organizations, if it's going to get to a size where I guess the finances are at a point where you can consider someone who is not directly contributing to the frontline income of the business, like a support function. If you're going to get to that size, you've probably got some learning and growth happening in there anyway. It's then just about where is that tipping point where it needs a person or a part of a full-time person, to really officially start to manage it and to make it be a bit more strategic and proactive rather than just having to respond to needs on a day-to-day basis.
I think it's fair to say that sometimes this is seen as fluffy. This is seen as a kind of a nice to have, but not. We've got R&D rather than L&D to put money at, or we need to go out and do all these different things. What, in your view, Lauren, why do you think it's important for a company? You mentioned scaling. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But if a company's scaling or growing, why do you think it's important?
Well, how many organizations have you heard out there that say our most important resource is our people? The thing that makes us unique is not our tools, it's not our products, it's the people that work here. And so if you're going to invest in making sure that you've got the top of the line production machinery, or that you've got cutting edge patents that are properly protected, would you not also invest in the delivery mechanism, which is the humans that work with you?
It feels like I'm fishing a little bit because we're both in the.
I feel like you've picked my trigger word, Graham.
Yeah, no, there we go. I always amazes me. We look at some of the companies that we're working with. A lot of the companies we're working with are national or global, and it's no coincidence that these people are investing in their people. So these companies are looking at their people. The most successful in the world. There's none of the big companies. None of the most successful companies in the world do not have training budgets, L&D teams, kind of a way of developing their people. And it always surprises me if we're looking to grow or scale a company, why that wouldn't be one of the first things, almost a mandatory must-have to be able to do it. I'm curious, you mentioned scale. You mentioned scale a lot there. Do you think there's a difference between scaling a company and growing a company when it comes to the people?
I think we're getting into semantics there, but I'd have to say yes. Scaling is taking what you have and just exponentially expanding it. So just the same thing, but bigger. Whereas growing your company, that's more organic. And by the very nature of growth, it will get bigger. But there may also be some fundamental transformations in there that will take you leaps and bounds ahead of just more of the same. Leadership's a really good example of that. In an organization, if you can, get your leaders to a position where they can make great decisions, on a day-to-day basis, and they understand the importance of looking after their team members, and they can have that business and human mindset and hold those both at the same time. If you can get 10% more of that leadership capability, it's the biggest lever that you can push that's going to change everything. It's going to change the speed of onboarding, with people getting up to production. It's going to change the level of engagement that people have. They're going to be spotting opportunities for people within their team to grow and develop. They'll be encouraging innovation. They'll be going on to bigger and brighter things themselves, and they'll be attracting and keeping people in their team who love to work there. That's so much more of an impact than just getting one extra team that works for you and scaling things up.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking, we're working with some companies that the whole thing is about revenue growth. It's just about kind of making what they've got bigger, and they may open up a few more areas or something like that geographically. But what we're seeing is scaling is kind of getting to a size and then replicating. And that's, it's an interesting kind of just different dynamic on that. I suppose I'm looking now at so when we got first time and you mentioned learning management systems and all this bit of technology comes in, they seem to be old fashioned now, and I don't know why, but because not everybody's got them. But then, the introduction of AI, the introduction of kind of new technologies, how do you see that helping the industry, if at all, if it is a help?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that have very strong opinions about AI and how it's going to help learning and development in a bunch of different ways. From everything that I know about it as a tool, it really boils down to the fact that AI and computers are really good at a couple of things. They're good at remembering stuff. They're good at sharing it back to people.
Yeah.
They're very patient, and they can customize for each individual person. They've got infinite patience, infinite time, and access to infinite knowledge. Kind of the opposite of what we have as human beings. As a single learning and development professional, look, the average team size of the L&D function around the world is about 1 to 1.5 people. 2 out of 3 L&D teams around the world have got 1 or 2 people in them at the most. So when you are that single person, the ability to provide things to people that aren't just stock standard anymore, or to re-explain and answer the same questions to people with something that doesn't get tired and it doesn't get impatient and it doesn't have to go to another meeting, that real customization, that's what's going to help learning and development. We could use it to make, to turn a PDF into a quiz all day long.
Yeah.
And that's fine to a certain extent, but it's kind of the junk food of what we can really use this tool for.
You mentioned patience doesn't necessarily come to all humans. I'm kind of laughing because I put myself there as well. Is there anything you've had to work on, kind of a trait that you've had to turn and say, do you know what, Lauren needs more of this, or less of this, or less of this? I don't know. Lauren needs more or less of this to be able to kind of get my message over and work with others.
Oh. Gosh, well, given that I've started our conversation by being very open and saying, look, I'm not perfect with stuff, let me give you a laundry list.
It's just us.
Patience. It's just you and me, right? Yeah. So
you and I.
Look, definitely patience, although that has improved over the years. I tend to get really excited about things. And that excitement can sometimes make other people a little bit backward in coming forward about their concerns. And then I'm very big picture focused. When I worked in recruitment, my team and we did the HBDI brain assessment, where they put the 4 quadrants, and everyone in my team was blue, logical, rational, numbers-based, very concrete. And they had us stand on a scale so that we could work out how we work as a team. Now, I was yellow, and I was so yellow that they actually ran out of tape, and I had to go and stand in the corner at the opposite spectrum of where the whole rest of my team sits.
Was that a challenge, or was that good?
It actually made everything make a lot of sense, because that yellow, innovative, big picture, optimistic mindset. Look, there was a time when I thought of a new filing system for the way that we manage people's resumes. This was back when we were using paper, and it was amazing. It was way more efficient. It was going to save us time. It was going to make it really easy to find things, to file stuff away, whatever. So I did it. I sorted it out. I was so proud of myself. Forgot to tell the rest of my team that I'd done it. So that was a lesson in change management. And I'd like to say that I've learned a lot from that one.
So do you still ask for forgiveness rather than permission?
I more now do the thing and announce it loudly as I go.
Oh, okay. That's fair enough. Isn't it? You just dated yourself by saying you used paper. I can't believe that. I'm so pleased. And I don't feel alone. It's really interesting when we're talking about technology. I don't know if you've seen this. The amount of times I'll hand out something like paper and pens, and I can see some younger members of the team are sitting looking like I've not written for 3 weeks, and you expect me to do something. With that in mind, do you see any changes with these new companies that are coming through, and the Gen Z, I suppose? Do you see any changes in what they're looking for, what they want?
I don't know if it's a generational change or if it's just that we as a society of consumers have changed our expectations. But I've been seeing it for a while that in our private lives, you know, the tools that we use, the apps that we use, they're amazing. You know, if you think of any of your social media tools, they're really designed to be super easy to use. You don't need a training session to learn how to use it. It sends the right things to you at the right time. And, you know, your brain wants to go back and look for more.
Yeah.
And so because that is the standard that we now expect, if you are then, you know, in a working environment, telling somebody to use this tool that doesn't look as nice, or it's not as user-friendly, or you have to go through 3 levels of putting in your password before you can actually jump in.
Yep.
People just have less patience for that now. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult, you know, from the learning part of things. People already say they don't have time to do learning in a work environment. So we got to get rid of as many of those bits of friction as we can.
We're doing quite a bit on we call it generational integration rather than diversity, because it is about everybody working together, and the amount of times that we're seeing that there's a real commonality on what everybody wants. It's just slight, as you say, delivered in maybe a slightly different way, but there's no huge differences.
We're all people, you know.
I know it sounds a little bit of a cliche, doesn't it? But it's still true that people are just kind of wanting the same things, and we're all people. People buy from people, and we're looking for community. We're looking for belonging. We're looking for kind of that place where we're comfortable. Interesting. So what's the first points that you go over? I'm curious, just. When you're working with somebody who's maybe brand new into L&D, into kind of thinking about this, what's the first pieces of advice you'd give them?
Well, I would say that the very first thing is don't underrate what you already know. You know, if you've got a person that's going into a learning and development role, odds are it's not the first job that they've ever had, and they probably have at least a little bit of adult life experience. So they know how adults like to learn. You know, they've had experiences of great learning experiences and not so great learning experiences, and what great leadership looks like and what doesn't. You know, like me moving into learning and development, I actually started doing my studies like at the same time as I moved. And so I was coming into that role feeling not sure that I knew everything that there was to know.
Yeah.
Finished my studies, confirmed I don't know everything that there is to know. Never will. It's fine. So that's probably the next thing to let people know as well, is that it's learning and development for everyone else, but it's also for you. So, you know, what do you want to learn? What do you need to grow in? And then the last tip would be connect with people in the business. You know, when I first stepped into the role that I'm in right now, I went around asking people a bunch of dumb questions so that I could find out the answers.
Yeah.
It was great. I got to meet new people. You know, I connected with all these people in the business that I would probably never have otherwise talked to. And all I was doing was going around and asking, what do we do? What's it like working here? You know, what's your day-to-day role look like?
Yeah.
So, yeah, learned a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I have seen is that people seem to come in thinking they should know it all, or they should be aware of things. And I don't know if there's that pressure. Again, we talk about social media where there's so many people out there calling themselves influencers and saying they've got the answers to everything. And I just wonder if people come into the workplace expecting that or thinking they should know all the answers, rather than just have that curiosity. Just take the time to find out. Final question, Lauren. Final question. It's a nice, simple one. Really, really easy. What do you think are there any new trends for 2025? What do you think's kind of maybe going to change or shape the workplace next year? What do you think we're going to need to be potentially focusing on?
Well, I think it's going to be a continuation of a few things that we've seen lately. The shiny AI Wild West kind of world is starting to become a little bit more civilized, which means that, you know, more people are going to be using it. We're going to be more comfortable with it. I think the variety of options that are out there at the moment is going to start consolidating itself down. So definitely my first thing to be looking out for is being able to use it in the right ways that achieve outcome rather than just using it because it's shiny. So I think people are going to hopefully start being a bit more realistic about that. Other things that I really hope continue as a trend, it's continuing to raise those standards that we have for the user experience and the employee experience, whether it's tools that we're using or having those in-person interactions. I think that people, we've done the remote stuff, we've done the chat robot stuff, but I'm starting to see that there is this thirst for just having a conversation with somebody. Learning from somebody can be as simple as making sure that you're both in the office on Tuesday, going out and having a coffee for half an hour and just asking them about their career and how they got to where they are. So lots of big stuff, and then at the same time, some really small personal stuff.
And I think we're seeing the same. I think we're guessing it's going to be that kind of continuation, next level, especially AI. There's very much not nearly the amount of fear there was 18 months ago about what it was going to do and what it was going to take over. But we see that. I think that's really interesting. Your final point about being in the office in the same day, work from home, the kind of flexible working, hybrid working. Looks like it's going to be a hot topic again next year, which we were just discussing. We're kind of 3.5, 4 years into this, and we're still trying to find the answer.
Well, I mean, we were doing office-based stuff for how many decades before we suddenly went to remote? This hybrid thing, it's still brand new for all of us. Relatively speaking, we've still got a lot to learn.
Lauren, you're a star as always. Fantastic to see you.
You too.
And hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Sounds like a plan.
Bye-bye.
See ya.